Okay, all right. We fixed it. We're back. We're back. We're back. I think I got it down now. There's no issues on my end. As you come on in, hit a 1 in the chat if you can see and hear me, and then we will get started. There's a lot to talk about today. We've got the Jay-Z Buzbee thing. Jay-Z is now suing Jane Doe. It's an interesting complaint. I have not read the whole thing yet because I wanted to read it with all of you guys, so it's going to be fantastic. Cannot wait. Hit me with a 1 in the chat if you can see and hear me. Just a little live streaming test. It happens. Tron 0. We back. Okay, good. Good. All right. It sounds like the sound is good and we're going from there. Thank you so much, Mixed Chick. All right, y'all. We're going to jump right on into this. I'm really excited to read this complaint. I mean, here's what we know. Jay-Z was sued by Tony Buzbee and Jane Doe in October at this point of last year. And at first, his name was not released in this lawsuit at all. He was just named as Celebrity A. There is another woman named Celebrity B. And allegedly, Jane Doe went to the VMAs. She was invited to a Diddy party, which doesn't sound like fun. I mean, oh my God. It did not sound like it was a good time. But at the time, she was 13 years old. And a lot of things about her story just did not add up. Meaning, you know, she lived in upstate New York at the time. It was like a 5-hour drive each way to get there and come back. Tony Buzbee had her do an NBC interview in December, and the case just kind of blew up because Jay-Z's name was named in mid-December. Now, after that, you have this legal war between Buzbee and Jay-Z because Jay-Z is pissed that his name was bought into this Diddy stuff. Now, some people come from the camp that he's guilty. Other people are like, I don't think he did anything. And he's getting hit in the cross like hairs of what's happening here. It's crazy. So we're going to break it all down. And thank you so much for everybody that's hitting the like button. I just needed to make sure I figured out what was going on. Sometimes glitches happen. You know, this is a part of streaming, being a content creator. It comes with trials and tribulations, no pun intended. But it also comes with learning as you go, right? For those that have not seen it on the community tab, I just got invited to speak at Vid Summit this year, okay? So I'm super excited about that. And we have just been working super hard to get content out. That being said, let's jump into this document. So, Carter, Buzbee, Jane Doe. Here's what we got. Here's what we know. This was filed last night. There is one person asking me to turn the sound up. I'm just going to bring the mic a little bit closer because I don't want to blow y'all's ears, all right? But let's jump into this. If the stream is still bad, Timothy, I might end it. Just do a video instead. But thank you. I hope this is better. Let's jump on it. Here we go. So, Sean Corey Carter. I had no idea that his middle name was Corey. Little crazy, but that's Sean Corey Carter. This is filed in the woman's state of Alabama. This is where she lives today. Not only is Jay-Z suing Jane Doe, he's suing Tony Buzbee, but we already knew that. There's a separate complaint that's filed in California, right? So this one was filed yesterday, and this is against Jane Doe. And Jay-Z actually wanted to use her real name on this complaint. But because in the state of New York, they used her name as Jane Doe, we're going to continue to do that, right? Let's jump in. Plaintiff Sean Corey Carter's complaint and demand for a jury trial. Now, here's the thing about all of this is that it is very likely that Jane Doe does not come from money. Now, that sounds bad. I'm not judging. So Jay-Z's filing this complaint, but it's one of those things where you have to think about it. What are you going to sue her for? Does she have the assets to pay you for what that reward amount could be? But at the same time, how does this look if this is a victim, alleged victim, and you're this big celebrity suing them? Now, we saw what happened with Tasha K and Cardi B last week. I mean, that was a win. That was a win. But Tasha K is a content creator. Filed for bankruptcy, but she's still going to have to pay Cardi B. Now, Jane Doe, we don't know what she does for work. We don't know anything about Jane Doe because she's Jane Doe. We know nothing about Jane Doe at this point. So let's jump into this one because I have not read it. We're reading it raw dog together. We're doing it together, guys. We're in here. And we're going from there. So let's see. And thank you so much, Gail. Reminding everybody, hit the like button on your way in. It's been a while since we streamed, so please do that while you have a second. Get this out into the algorithm. And let's get into this document. Now, I've never seen something like this in an intro. When you read these court filings, introductions, and this is how I learned in legal writing in law school, your introduction is your hook, kind of like a YouTube video. It's your hook. It's how you get people hooked in. Guys, look at what these lawyers wrote. They said, false. A, false. B, malicious. C, strategic and tactically calculated in time to inflict maximum pain and suffering on Mr. Carter. And D, in conspiracy with multiple attorneys, including defendants Tony Buzbee and David Fortney, who, like her, were soullessly motivated by greed, an abject disregard for the truth, and most fundamental precepts of human decency. God damn, oh my gosh. Start a legal document. What my professors would have, you don't start legal documents like that. But that's how Jay-Z is starting this in the first 4 lines. He doesn't care if this woman has money to pay him for defamation or whatever the case may be. He's getting his licks back. This is getting your licks back. False, malicious, strategically and tactically calculated and timed to inflict maximum pain and suffering on Jay-Z. And in conspiracy with multiple attorneys, including the defendants Buzbee and David Fortney, who, like her, were soullessly motivated by greed, an abject disregard for the truth, and most fundamental precepts of human decency. I feel like this is irreverent. Like, what is this tone? That's how we're starting off. And shout out to Deonra, who's just like, AV with the analysis and breakdown. I'm here. We started a little rough this morning, but we're here. Okay, Deonra, you ready? Let's read this one. These are the only truthful and fair descriptions of Jane Doe and her lawyers' malevolent efforts to assassinate the impeccable and lifetime earned character of Sean Corey Carter, born December 4th, who is professionally known as Jay-Z, but more importantly is known as dad and husband to Queen Bee and son and a human being who did nothing to deserve or elicit the wanton, depraved attack that Jane Doe, in conspiracy with her lawyers, launched to extort Mr. Carter beginning November 5th, 2024, through a menacing private demand letter. This is a movie. Do y'all have popcorn? I think this is interesting. Malicious and depraved heart. Like, what else? We got 26 more pages of this. Oh, Lord. Let's go. Okay. Doe and her lawyers, Anthony Buzbee, David Fortney, and Anthony Buzbee LP, DBA the Buzbee Law Firm, collectively then bought for the world an in-court complaint, the impossibility and indeed absurdity of which was surpassed only by its vile malevolence in a desperate attempt to leverage Jay-Z into an extort payoff, which these malicious actors presented as the only path for Jay-Z to prevent the public prosecution of a lawsuit by Jane Doe. With their extortionate demand letter failed to yield the financial windfall they sought. And after, in italics, bolded and underlined, after Doe told Buzbee, with whom she had never spoken before the demand letter was drafted and sent, shit, I didn't know that Jay-Z did not assault her, Buzbee pushed her towards going forward with the false story against Jay-Z to make the case better and to get the lawyer and her more money. Specifically, Buzbee bought Jay-Z into it. Well, damn. So this is getting interesting, Chatterhood. This is getting very interesting with these allegations here. And keep in mind, this is filed yesterday. It's Jay-Z's side of the story. Buzbee then went forward with naming Mr. Carter, with full knowledge by him, as imparted to him by Doe, that Mr. Carter had never assaulted Doe. And Doe's entire story as it related to Mr. Carter was completely fabricated. So they're saying with full knowledge that Buzbee filed this lawsuit, he knew it was false. He pushed the woman who knew it was false to file the lawsuit. This is a big deal against Buzbee's name. Jay-Z is getting his licks back. He's getting his licks back. Shout out to T House, Keyshawn, everybody popping in, Petty Pendergrass. Shout out to Carla. Let's keep going. Doe has now voluntarily admitted directly to representatives of Jay-Z that the story brought before the world in court and on global television was just that, a false, malicious story. She has admitted that Jay-Z did not assault her and that indeed it was Buzbee himself whom she met for the first time at a coffee shop in Houston on the day of her false NBC News interview, which is discussed in detail below. They're like, I'm gonna give y'all the tea. You're gonna get the tea again. It was Buzbee who met her at this coffee shop, met her for the first time, pushed her to go forward with the false narrative of assault by Mr. Carter in order to leverage a maximum payday. To compound this egregious harm, just last Friday, Buzbee and Fortney's co-counsel, prominent New York attorney, is now dismissed in the now dismissed false action against Mr. Carter, threatened Jay-Z's lawyers to double down with yet another false public statement by Doe if Jay-Z publicly revealed her admissions. Oh my God. And Buzbee and Fortney's misdeeds and Jay-Z's pending California lawsuit against Buzbee. All right, we're going to break that down again because there's still shady shit happening even today. So it looks like last Friday, and today is only Tuesday. These lawyers are quick. Last Friday, they were still trying to do some shady things behind the scenes. This was filed yesterday. Today's Tuesday. That means in the last few days, this was being threatened. Because this is Jay-Z suing the woman now and Buzbee, but in Mobile, Alabama, where she currently lives. Crazy work. Crazy work. Let's keep going. Just last Friday, Buzbee and Fortney's counsel, so the attorneys that represent Tony Buzbee and his co-counsel, Fortney, this person is a prominent New York attorney, Okay, I think I see what happened. Threatened Jay-Z's lawyers to double down with yet another false public statement with Jane Doe if Jay-Z publicly revealed her admissions. He is not letting this woman bully him at all. Fortunately, and clearly unexpected from their perspective, Jane Doe, Buzbee, and Fortney were met with nothing but righteous resolve at every turn by Jay-Z. He stood steadfast, publicly decried the lies being put forth against him, and beat the evil conspiracy among malicious Doe and her malevolent, soulless lawyers, driving them back into the shadows from which they came. What? All right. I've never seen legal writing like this. It's not funny, but it's like, the power of Christ compels you. Go back to the shadows from which you came. Like, what? This is the funniest thing I've heard all week. I'm literally crying. He stood steadfast, Jay-Z, publicly decried the lies being put forth against him, and beat the evil conspiracy among malicious Doe and her malevolent, soulless lawyers, driving them back into the shadows in which they came. Who wrote this? Yo! Oh my God! It's not funny, but this is where the power of rock compels you. Oh my God. Oh, I think this might be the funniest legal document I've ever read. Okay. Driving them back into the shadows from which they came, resulting in the voluntary dismissal with prejudice, without settlement, of their false and malicious complaint on February 14th, the year of our Lord 2025, on Valentine's Day. Jay-Z does not commence his action lightly. Following Jane Doe's admissions that she fabricated her claims against Jay-Z, her lawyers have continued to seek to hide this reality, including through further extortionate threats and demands by Buzbee, Fortney, and their New York co-counsel on February 28th. That was Friday. Even after all this, Jay-Z does not expose his malicious and wrongful accuser's identity in this complaint, seeking to maintain her anonymity as Doe. But the extortion and abuse of Jay-Z by Doe and her lawyers must stop. Okay, so that's what this lawsuit is. This is, Betty said, get from here. This is a warning shot from Jay-Z. It's like, you think that we have no resources where we can't get this done. Like, ma'am, Jane Doe, lawyers, please stop. You know, this case is over with. It has been dismissed without prejudice, and we don't need to bring it back. We don't need to resurrect it. But Betty said, get from here. This is crazy. Let's continue. Therefore, Jay-Z brings this lawsuit to hold Jane Doe accountable for her willful defamation per se and her malicious prosecution of knowingly false allegations against Jay-Z that Doe and her co-conspirator attorneys have falsely and maliciously peddled. Who are the parties? You have Sean Carter, born December 4th. He's a citizen of the state of California and resides in the state of California. Defendant Tony Buzbee is an attorney and resident of the state of Texas. Okay, we know that he owns the Tony Buzbee law firm, and we have defendant David Fortney. He's an attorney affiliated with Buzbee's law firm and is also a resident of the state of Texas. So it looks like they're setting up diversity jurisdiction. The Buzbee law firm is organized under the laws of the state of Texas and operates in its principal business from Harris County, Texas. No members of the defendant firm reside in the state of California. Yeah, they're setting up why This is being filed in Alabama. Jane Doe is a citizen of Alabama. Doe sued Mr. Carter in the Southern District of New York under Jane Doe. She further published her malicious lies on NBC News without revealing her name. Oh my God. Who wrote this? This is probably one of the funniest complaints I've ever read. I'm not even gonna hold you guys. This is hilarious. The power of Christ compels you. Jurisdiction and venue. You have diversity because the controversy exceeds the summer value of $75,000, exclusive interests and costs. And let me just end between the citizens of different states. A lot of people don't really know diversity jurisdiction basically means that you can sue somebody in a different state if you both don't reside in that state, if you are both residents in different states and the matter at hand is more than $75,000. So that means Jay-Z is definitely suing this lady for defamation, and the proceeds are absolutely going to be above $75,000 and 1 cent. We have diversity here. Now, let's continue. Mr. Carter is a citizen of the state of California. Oh, actually, I read that part already. Allegations. Here we go. This is the T section. 1. After hiring the Buzbee law firm, Jane Doe falsely accuses Jay-Z of assault in written correspondence, court filings, and on global television. Oh my goodness. Jane Doe appears to be suffering from personal and financial hardship. Oh gosh, look at how it starts. She lost custody of her children. Oh man, her parents, who on information and belief support Jane Doe, recently filed for bankruptcy. Despite to obtain a payday, Jane Doe hired the Buzbee law firm, which has a long history of whipping up a media frenzy with vague and sensational claims against public figures to extort payments from Jay-Z under the threat of devastating harm to his reputation. Well, damn. I did not know that. Crazy. They went in guns blazing. As discussed below, Jane first attempted to extort Jay-Z through an extortionate demand letter and an anonymous lawsuit, both from Buzbee. When Jay-Z refused to capitulate to Jane Doe's baseless claims, Jane Doe doubled down by using the justice system to attempt to ruin Jay-Z by formally naming Jay-Z in a complaint, making horrific, false allegations. And when that also failed, Jane resorted to defaming Jay-Z on global television. You know, I don't know who thought that interview was a good idea. I've been saying that for months, you guys. If Buzbee thought it was a good idea to take his victim, alleged victim, and put her on national television to talk about this, that's really why this entire case fell apart instantly. Because what she said in the interview was completely different from what she said in the original complaints. What the hell? It was bad. Jodeci said, keep reading, it gets worse. Oh, the tea. A simple Google or other public record search of Doe by Buzbee and Fortney would have cast doubt on her credibility by revealing that, among other things, A, less than 90 days before sending the demand letter, she had been in court on mental health-related issues in connection with her second-degree assault charge. Oh, my God. And had her bail revoked for failing a drug test. Oh, my... Who wrote this? Oh, so Jane Doe lost custody of her children. Her parents filed for bankruptcy, is doing drugs. All right, Jay. All right, Jigga. We get it. We get it. But apparently, from you guys, it gets worse. B, she's had several mental health disorders and takes multiple medications, according to testimony from her psychiatrist laid bare in public court records. And C, she made 3 other essay allegations which were either dropped or dismissed by courts. This is why, I love this channel, because we get to really look at the flaws in the legal system as well. When it comes to civil suits, essay is never funny. This Diddy stuff is not funny. There are people that are actual victims, and you have some people that are doing it, in the words of some, for a cash grab. But the fact is that anybody can sue anybody for certain things. Civil procedure 101. However, anybody can file a complaint, but does that move forward in our legal system? I think that's really what Jay-Z is trying to show here. That this is a woman that came from the shadows, had all these problems going on in life, but at the same time, if she's telling the truth, this looks really bad. If she's lying, it looks really bad. Overall, it looks really bad for everybody. I mean, this is not good. This is not good at all. A, Doe sues Diddy, Diddy's entities, and Doe's 1 through 10, alleging that she was assaulted at an after party following the 2000 MTV VMAs. On October 20th, Jane Doe sued Diddy and his business entities, right? We have the original complaint. Although Doe's lawsuit also implicates unnamed celebrity A and B, Jane Doe did not formally name them as parties. Instead, Jane only sued Doe's 1 through 10 as defendants. In her original complaint, Jane alleges that when she was 13 years old, a friend dropped her off at the VMAs, Radio City Music Hall in New York City, so she can try to attend the VMAs. On September 7, 2000, although she was unable to talk her way into the VMAs, a limo driver purporting to work for Diddy invited her to an after party. Later that evening, the limo driver took her to a large white house with a gated U-shaped driveway about 20 minutes away. After accepting a drink, Jane claims to have felt woozy and lightheaded and found what she believed to be an empty room. Jane alleges that Diddy and celebrity A assaulted her while celebrity B watched. It has become evident that Jane Doe did not initiate this legal action with a legitimate purpose. Instead, the lawsuit was filed with the intent to extort Jay-Z. Whew. I mean, this is going to be a long one, y'all. We're only on page 6. Coming to the chat. Shout out to Deonra, who says theatrical legal motions. I mean, very theatrical. Coming from the shadows, the power of Christ compels you. What is going on? I rebuke. I was like, wow, we are going in over here. But thank you so much, Deonra, for the $2 super chat. Shout out to our favorite mixed chick, Sammy, with the 10, says, it's sad because it hurts real victims. That's right. And stains the person if they didn't do it. I couldn't agree more, Sammy. This is a tough one because it's okay, Jay-Z is fighting back. I think it sends a strong message for men and women that are falsely accused for things that they did not do. We just finished the ASAP Rocky case and the whole debacle with Relly. A jury found that Rocky was innocent of those crimes. However, Relly is still proceeding with his civil lawsuit against Rocky. That's going to be a different jury, a new set of people. However, Jay-Z and I always thought about this when these complaints started floating around, is married to Queen Bee, to Beyonce. I like, listen, if this makes it to court, I'm just telling you right now, the beehive is strong. The beehive is very strong. You want to see a set of loyal fans? Just poke the beehive. But to Mixed Chick's point, you know, if you are lying about something like this, it's not funny because like people do go through issues where they're assaulted, and sometimes it is by celebrities. Like look at the Epstein files. I was waiting to go live on that, and that's why we didn't go live on Friday, because there really wasn't much that was released. But like there are real victims of assault that are out there. But when people play with the legal system like this, it's like, come on, don't do that. Reserve it for some serious things, not paydays. But at the same time, if you're a person that, as this lawsuit claims, might have some mental health problems, you're at home, you're going through some money issues, and you're watching TV and there's this big 1-800 number. And this lawyer's like, hey, call me now if you've been assaulted by Diddy. Call me now. Like if he's saying that, you might call the number. There's 2,000 people that call that number, and they allegedly did their footwork to the 120 best cases. Now, in that pool of 120, what if you have people that have good, valid claims? True, valid claims. But Buzbee and team, it looks like they're dropping the ball here. It really does. Thank you so much, Mixed Chick, for the $10 super chat. Shout out to Trucker T Brooklyn. Gifted you guys 10 memberships to the AV7 community, to the Chatterhood. We're here. We still look at legal documents from time to time. Once or twice a week, we're going to try to do these little power hours in and out. But Trucker T, thank you so much for gifting memberships. If you received a membership from Trucker T, please say thank you to him. He does not have to do it. It's very sweet. It's very generous. If you guys could say thank you to Trucker T, that would be amazing. Let's go back in to the debauchery here, shall we? Thanks again, Trucker T. Okay, let's keep going. Next section. Jane Doe sends Jay-Z an extortionate letter falsely accusing him of assault. A few weeks after filing her complaint, Jane, through Buzbee, sent Jay-Z an extortionate letter dated November 5th, containing false allegations of vile conduct by Jay-Z. Some of the allegations in her letter were from the public complaint Jane filed against Diddy and Doe's 1 through 10, which contained inconsistencies that were later changed when the complaint was amended. Come on. Buzbee. I didn't know that. Oh, man. With the obvious implication being that she would amend her complaint to add Jay-Z if he refused to pay. Jane threatened to take a different course if Jay-Z did not commit to a confidential mediation to resolve this delicate and important matter by a deadline of November 19th. So she gave him 2 weeks, giving Jay-Z a 2-week window before she would go public with her false allegations. To avoid both public and criminal exposure, Buzbee stated that his client wants something of substance by way of a settlement. However, Jane had already sued Jay-Z, oh man, as one of the John Doe's 1 through 10. Jane Doe's plan was thus clear. She was demanding that Jay-Z either pay something of substance to stop her from making the public wildly false accusations of assault that would subject Mr. Carter to irreparable harm to his reputation, family, career, or livelihood, or 2, endure that financial and personal ruin. Doe's statements of correspondence made clear that the immediate and extensive threat of exposure if Jay-Z failed to pay. Jane amends her lawsuit and falsely alleges that Jay-Z assaulted her. Unwilling to capitulate to Doe and Buzbee's extortion, on November 18th, Jay-Z filed a lawsuit against Buzbee for extortion and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Jay-Z explained that Buzbee was shamelessly attempting to extort exuberant sums of money from him or falsely publicly file wildly horrific allegations against him. On December 8th, this is when this came across my desk, humiliated by Jay-Z's lawsuit, Buzbee encouraged Jane Doe to file, and Buzbee's and Fortney filed a first amended complaint, revealing what Jay-Z knew all along, that one of the Does was a placeholder for Jay-Z if he did not pay her ransom. Damn, he called it a ransom. Oh my God. He called it ransom. Whoever wrote this, this is interesting. In Jane Doe's first amended complaint, Doe makes wild, horrific, but utterly false allegations against Jay-Z, substituting him for Celebrity A from the earlier complaint. D. Jane goes on global television falsely accusing Mr. Carter of SA. On December 13th, NBC News broadcasted portions of the exclusive interview of Doe, which was conducted with Fortney by her side. NBC News honored Doe's request to mask her identity. NBC News published a story excerpting interviews it held with Doe. Chloe Melas, et al., Jay-Z accuser, comes forward to NBC News, acknowledges inconsistencies in her allegations. So that was published. During the interview, which was set up by Buzbee and was given on a voluntary basis and in the presence of Fortney, Jane lied about Jay-Z to a global television audience. In addition to attempting to explain the impossible, how she was 13 years old from upstate New York, wound up in Manhattan at a private VMA's after party with countless celebrities. Jane told NBC how she spoke with musicians Benji Madden and his brother at the after party. She recalled talking to Benji about his tattoo of The Last Supper because she has a religious background, so it was something to talk about. Jane repeated her claims that while at the after party, she had a drink that made her feel woozy. After which, Diddy and allegedly Mr. Carter took turns on her while an unidentified female celebrity watched. Jane told NBC that following the assault, she found her way to a gas station where she called her father, who picked her up and drove her home. She states her father did not ask her what happened, what she did, or where she was. Instead, they rode home in silence for 5 hours and 47 minutes. Next section. All of Jane's allegations against Jay-Z were demonstrably false. Jane's allegations about Jay-Z were false and defamatory, and her mendacity is clear, including to the reporters at ABC News. And that's the other thing. Like, they had her come on, and that's why I thought it was strange. If you have situations like this, and if Buzbee is representing her to his best ability, like, it's probably not the best idea, like weeks, not even days after you file the complaint and reveal Jay-Z's name, that you put the person on an interview. Have you guys noticed that Cassie has made like statements, but she has not done any interviews involving anything related to Diddy? Like, victims that go through stuff, they want to leave it in the past, but at the same time, for her to come on, and if it was voluntary, that means that NBC probably didn't pay her. She probably did that for free. Crazy. First, although Jane stated that the assault occurred at a residence, Jay-Z was at no such residence. Indeed, NBC News located photos of Jay-Z from that evening, showing him at a party at a commercial location, the now closed Lotus nightclub in New York City. Of course, a private nightclub cannot be mistaken for a large white house with a U-shaped driveway that included a large living room or foyer, a hallway containing several rooms off of it, and a bedroom. Even Buzbee admitted to NBC that Jane does not claim the assault occurred at the Lotus nightclub. Second, Jane told NBC that she spent 20 minutes in the limo before arriving at the residence. However, when pressed about these details in a follow-up interview with NBC, Jane admitted she did not know where she was going or even how long the drive took. Worse, she conceded to NBC that she guessed about the length of the time the trip had taken in the lawsuit. Jeez. Third, as to her description of a supposed conversation with Benji Madden during her interview, a representative for Madden confirmed to NBC that neither he nor his brother Joel attended the 2000 VMAs, and that they and their band Good Charlotte were on tour at the Midwest at the time. When confronted with this evidence, she conceded she made a mistake in identifying them, and that not all of these faces were at the after party were clear. Fourth, during her long, pre-drawn drive home with her father, Doe's father told NBC that he does not recall picking her up, which unsurprisingly would have been something that would definitely stick in my mind. He said that he learned of the assault when Jane was interviewed by NBC News in December, and he did not remember once picking her up in the middle of the night, but it was a local drive. That's the other thing. Not only did she get on the news and talk about this, national news, they had the father on there too. And the father's like, I don't recall. Yes, no, maybe. I don't recall. Maybe it was a local drive. Crazy. Based on their address in Rochester, New York, Doe's father would have driven at least 5 hours and 47 minutes to pick her up. And there are countless other falsehoods in her allegations. For instance, despite alleging it took 20 minutes to get from Radio City Music Hall to the after party, there are no houses matching her description within 20 minutes of Radio City Music Hall. And although she implies that Diddy hosted the after party, none of Diddy's properties match her description of the location of the after party. Moreover, Jane alleges that after the VMAs began, much of the crowd moved inside, but Jane, without a ticket, remained outside with others and watched the VMAs on a jumbotron. But the broadcast of the VMAs conclusively showed that there was no jumbotron. Indeed, the producer of the 2000 VMAs and the NYPD confirmed that there was no jumbotron since their permit application was denied. Even if Jane was outside the VMAs as she claims, she could have not approached celebrity limousines because they were only outside of Radio City's Music Hall briefly for celebrity pickup and drop off. In any event, the celebrity limos were separated from fans by police barricades, as publicly available video on the event clearly shows. NBC confronted Jane regarding this substantial contradictory evidence, which it had uncovered in less than a week after conducting the initial interview, in a follow-up phone interview. In response, Jane admitted that she made some mistakes. She also disavowed the allegations in her complaint about the location of the alleged incident and admitted that she was just guessing. She guessed it, you guys. She guessed it. Wow. But Doe did not drop her baseless complaint. She instead insisted on moving forward, including by offering to submit a polygraph, which never occurred, or in any event has never seen the light of day. Oh my God, the writer of this complaint is brilliant. Third section. Jane waited months before dismissing her false complaint and did so after being lied to by her lawyers for their own benefit. Uh-oh. Jay-Z made several court filings repeatedly detailing the falsity of Jane's claims as revealed by her story's inconsistencies and the baselessness of various allegations. At each of these junctures, Jane was confronted with false nature of her claim as well as the harm it was causing to Jay-Z. At any of these points, Jane could have withdrawn her lawsuit. Nevertheless, Jane continued to pursue her claim without regard to the harm it was causing or could cause Jay-Z. She has now admitted that Jay-Z did not assault her. Indeed, Buzbee, aware that Jay-Z did not assault her, pushed her to make the false claim for money. Having already sent the false and defamatory demand letters, having filed the false and defamatory complaint, and having already set Doe up to give false and defamatory interview on the news, Buzbee and his associates were happy to perpetuate the lies and hold out for an unwarranted payment for them and Doe. Indeed, Buzbee went so far as to tell TMZ on December 10th, already fully aware of the falsity of the allegations, having met with Doe in Houston, that Jane was not ruling out filing charges against Jay-Z. What? They were gonna put Jay-Z in jail. They threatened to put Jay-Z in jail. This is crazy. Crazy work. And that what happens next is up to my client. It is her case and what she decides to do. You will find out in due course. However, the legal process got in the way of the scheme. Buzbee had signed the complaints in the action against Jay-Z without being admitted to the bar of the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York as required. See, Diddy used this last week in some of his filings. Do y'all remember that? I think it was the last live stream we did. Diddy used this line right here, 51. Buzbee was not barred. He did not have permission to practice law in the Southern District of New York at the time. When the judge presiding over the case was advised of this fact, she issued an order dated January 28th, requiring Buzbee to file proof of admission on the docket by February 14th. The very next day, Buzbee applied for admission. He didn't have it. On February 13th, one day before his deadline to file proof of admission, Buzbee got the news that because he had already filed pleadings in New York without being admitted to the bar of that court, in the case at issue here and more than 20 others, his application for admission had been denied. He was also instructed to attach a copy of the denial order to any application for admission in a particular case in the Southern District of New York. Faced with this inability to comply with the judge's order against Jay-Z and facing the threat of punishment by the court, Buzbee dispatched Fortney to Alabama to meet with Jane Doe that same day on February 13th. During the meeting, Fortney falsely, maliciously, and manipulatively told Jane Doe that the case against Jay-Z needed to be dismissed as Jay-Z has made threats against Jane Doe's life, and it was too dangerous to continue with the case. What? What is happening here? Why did this story just take a dark turn? Of course, no such threats had ever been made. Rather, Buzbee and Fortney were desperate to withdraw the false case or face punishment in court for their actions in facing a false pleading without Buzbee even being admitted, jeopardizing their ability to continue with more than 20 other cases they had already pending. Yeah, Buzbee's in trouble. I think it's over. I do. I mean, if you were not barred in the state, if you didn't have permission to even practice law, when you file a lawsuit, that is an action that shows that you're practicing law. It falls under UPL, which is the unauthorized practice of law. It's a very serious offense. And if he's been practicing for 30 years, like, he knows this. Crazy. Okay. Thus, on the evening of Friday 14th on Valentine's Day, Jane Doe quietly filed her voluntary dismissal with prejudice. But the threats and extortion did not end with the dismissal of her fraudulent lawsuit. Rather, this past Friday, y'all, after Jane admitted to all of the foregoing, and after Buzbee became aware of those admissions, a prominent New York lawyer serving as Buzbee and Fortney's co-counsel called the attorney for Jay-Z. That's probably the person that wrote this. During that call, Buzbee's co-counsel threatened that if Jay-Z's lawyers filed anything in Jay-Z's pending extortion and defamation case in California against Buzbee related to the statements made by Jane, fully exculpating Mr. Carter and implicating her and the Buzbee for extortion and conspiracy, that Buzbee would issue a public statement by Jane Doe saying, 1, she was being harassed by Jay-Z's people since she dropped the lawsuit. And ladies and gentlemen, I have that. He did it. He issued that statement. We have it. We have it. And 2, dropped the lawsuit only because she was afraid for her life. Hold on, y'all. Sorry, Dusty in here. That allegations against Jay-Z and the drop lawsuit were all true. So you see how they flipped the narrative? That she was afraid for her life and everything was true. Which one is it? Did this happen or not? Craziness. Of course, Jane Doe's allegations about being harassed by Jay-Z's people since she dropped the lawsuit and about her reasons for dropping the lawsuit are and always were false. When Jane Doe, Buzbee, and Fortney and the New York counsel said they knew or could readily have discovered through any reasonable inquiry that these statements were false. Thus, the threats of extortion and further defamation continue to this day, necessitating that Jay-Z take action to prevent these actors from further preying on him. First cause of action, malicious prosecution against all defendants. On October 20th, Jane Doe, all these people, sued Diddy and his entities, alleging that they committed heinous crimes. Defendants did not initiate that lawsuit with a legitimate purpose. Instead, that lawsuit was filed with the intent to extort Jay-Z. On November 5th, Jane, through Buzbee, sent Jay-Z an extortionate letter threatening to publicly assert wild, horrific, and utterly false allegations that Jay-Z assaulted a minor at the VMAs in 2000. According to Jane, if Jay-Z wished to avoid the financial and personal devastation that these public allegations would inflict, he needed to work out a deal to silence her. But Jane had already sued Jay-Z. That was her mistake. You cannot go into settlement negotiations if you've already initiated a lawsuit. It's almost like you do it beforehand, before the lawsuit is filed. Now, it's almost like the stage in which the lawsuit is filed, because a complaint is a complaint. A complaint with an answer is very different from a complaint being a complaint. You guys remember, like, Cassie and Diddy were in settlement negotiations before that bombshell complaint dropped 2 years ago at this point. About a year and a half ago, November of 23. But here's the thing. The complaint was launched publicly, but at the end of the day, they were already in settlement negotiations. The complaint dropping is kind of the play that Buzbee's doing here. Now, with Jane, she filed the lawsuit first. She filed the complaint, initiated the lawsuit. Do you see how the settlement negotiations should have happened beforehand? But when Buzbee is getting thousands of phone calls hundreds of people wanting some sort of compensation or recourse for what happened to them, what allegedly happened to them. Does he even have time to do the settlements correctly? He didn't even have time to be, like if you're filing a majority of these lawsuits, 22 of them in the state of New York, you're not even barred there, buddy. What are you doing? What are you doing? Defendants thus filed a lawsuit to force Jay-Z into either A, paying something of substance to stop her from making public and the wildly false allegations of assault that would subject Jay-Z to irreparable harm to his reputation, family, career, and livelihood, or 2, endure that financial and personal ruin. After Jay-Z refused to, Jane Doe's extortionate demands, Jane, through Buzbee, made good on her threat and formally named Jay-Z a defendant in the lawsuit she filed weeks earlier. Defendants either knew that the statements against Jay-Z were false and acted with reckless disregard for the truth when initiating the proceedings against Jay-Z. Jane used the NBC and other platforms to publish and further disseminate her false statements to millions of readers and viewers to falsely accuse Jay-Z of assault and inflict maximum reputational harm on him to induce Mr. Carter to give her money to which she was not entitled. Jane's lawsuit lacked any probable cause to believe her lawsuit had legal merit, as demonstrated on how easy it was for NBC to disprove her allegations after a few days of investigation that revealed evidence that directly contradicted her version of events. No person of ordinary care and prudence would believe that Jay-Z assaulted Jane at this after party at the VMAs. And that's the other thing. They're showing like even a news company was able to disprove what you said. Like it's just news people. They went and did research and they were like, this can't be real. 1-800-SUE-DIDDY. Good to see you still across the pond. It's crazy, guys. For example, NBC found the following inconsistencies. She said it took place at a large White House. We know that didn't happen, but photographs show that Mr. Carter attended a different party at the same day. She alleged that her father picked her up. We know that wasn't true. When asked, her father didn't remember doing so. She said she spoke to certain celebrities. They fact-checked and found out that they were in the Midwest at the time. They weren't even there. She alleged that she watched it on a Jumbotron. Jumbotron didn't exist. She said that she approached limo drivers despite the proof that the limo area was cordoned off by police and inaccessible to fans. Jane also admitted that her statements contained mistakes and admitted that the key details in her allegations were inaccurate and were based off of guesses. Jane thus knowingly and intentionally filed a complaint that contained false allegations. I mean, it's true. If they're catching you on the news, it's tough. Yet even after NBC exposed the falsities and inconsistency of her statements, defendants nonetheless continued to pursue Jane's frivolous, meritless lawsuit for the improper purpose of attempting to extort a settlement from Jay-Z based on her allegations. Defendants acted with malice in pursuing and initiating the meritless lawsuit and executing their plan to accuse Mr. Carter of assault. They used the news media and media outlets to disseminate the fake accusations to millions despite the falsity. Defendants were willful and purposeful in order to do that reputational harm. Jane's lawsuit filed by Buzbee, it contained false allegations. We know that. There's something in here about $20 million. Here, it says Rock Nation, which resulted in his business suffering substantial losses in excess of $20 million, out-of-pocket loss and emotional harm, humiliation, and harassment. After finally realizing that their plan would not succeed, defendants quietly moved to voluntarily dismiss the lawsuit. Accordingly, the lawsuit was resolved in Jay-Z's favor without settlement or compromise. Defendants' initiation and continued prosecution of this lawsuit was willful, malicious, and was intended to oppress and cause injury to Jay-Z. Accordingly, Jay-Z is entitled to an award of punitive damages. He wants her to pay him. But she doesn't have money. How do y'all think this is going to end up? She doesn't have money. Second cause of action, abusive process against all defendants. Wow. Yeah, Jay-Z's not playing, guys. They have many examples in here. A lot of it is repetitive, so I'm not going to go over it. But that's the second cause of action. Third cause of action, civil conspiracy against all defendants. Damn, these are pretty interesting. Wow. Fourth cause of action, defamation against Jane Doe. This lady is screwed. She really is. He is not playing. Prayer for relief. Sean Corey Carter respectfully prays for judgment and relief against Jane Doe and Tony Buzbee and the Tony Buzbee law firm. And they want an award of assumed and actual damages and the amount to be determined by the judge or finder of fact. They want an award of punitive damages. They want reasonable costs and legal fees refunded. They want pre- and post-judgment interest as applicable and any other relief the court finds appropriate. Jay-Z demands a trial by jury of all the issues so triable. Filed yesterday. What do y'all think? Jay-Z took the time to reintroduce himself. His name is Hov. Thank you, Stu. That was funny. But wow. So that's not where this entire thing stops. Of course. Guess who came out and mentioned something? I'll put it over here for y'all. Miss Jane Doe came back. Let's look at this. Jane Doe has a declaration. This is her firing back. She says, I, Jane Doe, declare the following. I am over the age of 18, and I am Jane Doe. I am the individual identified as Jane Doe in the demand letter sent by the defendant, Buzbee Law Firm, to Sean Carter, Jay-Z, in November of 2024. I was granted permission to proceed under the pseudonym of Jane Doe in New York, and I make this declaration under that pseudonym for the same reasons as in the New York action. I have personal knowledge of the facts set forth herein, which are known to me to be true and correct, and if called as a witness, I could and would competently testify thereto. This declaration is submitted in support of the defendants, the Buzbee Law Firm and Tony Buzbee, their motion to strike under the Code of Civil Procedure. On Friday, February 21st, I was approached at my home by two individuals, a woman and a large man. They cornered me on my front porch and told me that they are investigators working with an attorney on behalf of Jay-Z. They asked me if I'd be willing to sign an affidavit stating that my claims in the New York actions were false. I refused. Oh, Jane. They also asked me if Buzbee sought me out as a client and whether Buzbee offered to pay me to pursue a false claim against Jay-Z. I told them that neither of those things happened, and I asked them to leave me alone. I felt intimidated and terrified at being confronted by these two individuals on my doorstep, and they knew my name and home address despite me being anonymous in the New York action. I also understand that investigators approached my father and my mother multiple times. Two investigators approached my father and mother as my father was picking up my mother from a medical appointment, asking them similar questions about whether Buzbee had paid me and requested that they sign affidavits stating that my claims were false. My father was separately approached at a gas station, and my mother was separately approached at a store. So y'all see this? She is stating that the Jay-Z camp, we're going to go to page 2 in a second, y'all, that the Jay-Z camp, they're cornering her. In all my instances, my parents refused to sign any affidavits, denied the investigators' claims about my case and Buzbee's conduct, and asked to be left alone. It's very alarming to me that Jay-Z's agents are looking for me and now know my whereabouts. Fear of intimidation and retaliation from Jay-Z and his associates or fans is one of the reasons that I chose not to pursue the New York action and instructed my attorneys to dismiss it. What? Like what? What? So you wanted to do it anonymously, and now that the cat's out of the bag, I don't know. Are you guys confused? I'm a little confused about what she's saying here. If you're not confused, put a 1 in the chat, and you're like, nope, maybe this is straightforward. Put a 2 in the chat if you're like, Jane, 1 + 1 = 2. I mean, I don't know. Wow. Let's continue. Although I ultimately chose not to pursue them, I stand by my claims in the New York action. I believe that I had a meritorious claim against Jay-Z. On September, I was 13, September of 2000, when I was 13, I attended the party at the house in New York where Diddy and Jay-Z were present. I saw and recognized both of them. At the party, I accepted a drink and began to feel lightheaded. I went into an empty bedroom to lie down by myself. Strange. Soon after that, Diddy and Jay-Z and another person entered the room. Jay-Z removed my clothes. Oh, she came out to say it again. And both Jay-Z and Diddy engaged in intercourse with me. I did not consent to this, and given that I was only 13, I could not have given valid consent. In 2024, I signed up as a client with the Ava Law Group. The Ava Law Group partnered with the Buzbee law firm to pursue the claims against Diddy and others, and my case was referred to the Buzbee law firm as a result. Several attorneys from the Buzbee law firm interviewed me extensively, including Buzbee himself. I authorized Mr. Buzbee and the Buzbee law firm to send a letter to Jay-Z to initiate the legal proceedings against him. I ultimately decided to dismiss the New York action because I was frightened by the reaction of Jay-Z and his supporters and the likelihood that I would have to be publicly named and subjected to public attacks. Jay-Z and his attorneys made numerous public statements attacking the veracity of my claims, and I am informed and believe that he sent investigators looking for me. Hove found her. Hove found her. I understand that even my attorneys have been sued by Jay-Z. I was not prepared to undergo years of attacks, intimidation, and harassment, and ultimately chose to dismiss my claims after certain negotiations among the attorneys involved in the New York action. I'm going to pull this last page, guys. All it says is, I declare under the penalty of perjury, under the state laws of California, that the foregoing is true and correct. And this is as of February 27th, but it's just now being released. Interesting, y'all. I don't know. This whole thing is a mess, in my opinion. It really is. In other news, in our Power Hour, we need to talk about Drake, who... Why are people calling him Lawbree? Lawbree Graham. Instead of Aubrey Graham, they're calling him Lawbree. But big news that dropped yesterday with Drake is, and shout out to Drew Beats, who sent me a Cash App to let me know what was going on. We are seeing that Drake has reached a settlement with one of the entities that he was suing over this whole Kendrick Lamar thing. And whose side are you on? Are you a Drake fan or a Kendrick fan? Drop it in the chat. Let me know. I want to see. I want to see where people land on this. But, Keyshawn, everybody's calling him Lawbry. He said Aubrey Karen Graham. Lawbry. That's a new one. It's actually pretty funny. All right. Let's come to the settlement here. So here we are with our latest legal news on Drake. Oh, there's people that stand with Drake. Lawbry always be suing. We have some Drake fans here. We have some Kendrick fans. K-Dot, Team Kendrick. Look at that, K-Dot. I'm on God's side. Okay. Kendrick all the way. It looks like a majority for Kendrick, but I am excited to see that there are Drake fans. Okay. I did a little bit of digging today to see where we are with this case. Number one, so we checked out some Texas courts, and it looks like this is indeed being dismissed. It's in the process of it. The case was filed on November 25th, and it looks like they had a hearing that was set up. It was coming up. The notice of the hearing was sent yesterday, and then there's a motion set for the 5th, right? It looks like it's dropped per letter. And then on the 24th, there is a setting on the motion to dismiss. So this case it's on its way out. But let's come back here and see how Drake reached a settlement with iHeart in a legal dispute over Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us. iHeart has settled a court dispute with Drake. We're going to go ahead and zoom in so y'all can follow along at home. Over allegations, the radio network received payola from UMG to play Kendrick Lamar's anti-Drake diss track, Not Like Us. In a filing last Thursday with Bucksar County District Court in San Antonio, Texas, where iHeartMedia is headquartered, lawyers for Drake said the rapper and the radio network had reached an amicable resolution of the dispute to satisfaction of both sides. No further details were offered in the court filing. In the statement emailed by MBW, Drake's legal team stated, "We are pleased that the parties were able to reach a settlement satisfactory to both sides and have no further comment on this matter. However, the legal petition against UMG will remain active in the Texas District Court." Drake filed a petition with court last November alleging that UMG designed, financed, and then executed a plan to turn Kendrick Lamar's They Not Like Us into a viral mega hit, with the intent of using the spectacle to harm to Drake and his businesses to drive consumer hysteria and, of course, massive revenues. The petition cited an unnamed inside source that allegedly told Drake that UMG made covert payments to a number of platforms, including radio stations, to play and promote They Not Like Us without disclosing those payments to listeners. This practice, known as payola, is prohibited by the Communications Act of 1934. UMG is a parent company of both Public Records, which distributes Drake's music, and Interscope, which distributes Kendrick Lamar's music. The petition also named iHeartMedia as a respondent. Drake's lawyers admitted to the court documents that they were unable to confirm whether any iHeart radio stations were among the stations paid for the pay-to-play scheme, but they suspected iHeart's involvement because it's the #1 audio company in the United States. And that's the crazy thing about all of this. People are just using lawsuits for speculation. No, you need to have proof. Where is the proof that iHeart did this, Drizzy? Where? You should have the proof. It cannot just be speculation. Show us the proof that they were paid. Craziness. Coming back here, the petition is not a lawsuit, but rather a request for pretrial discovery under Texas Rules of Civil Procedure. Drake's lawyers sought to depose UMG and iHeartMedia's executives ahead of the potential lawsuit. In January, UMG filed a motion to dismiss Drake's petition, arguing that the petition is an apparent effort to pressure UMG to limit the distribution of Not Like Us. They're still going to play the song. They're like, Drake, no, sorry. We're still going to play the song. UMG's lawyers cited the Texas Citizens Participation Act and an anti-SLAPP law meant to prevent lawsuits that are designed and intended to intimidate or punish people for exercising their First Amendment freedom of speech rights. In the words of UMG's motion, a settlement between iHeart and Drake comes as iHeart faces a payola investigation by the FCC over an unrelated matter. FCC Chair Brendan Carr notified iHeartMedia last week that he is launching an enforcement action. Ooh, they're in trouble against the company over allegations that the radio network has asked artists to perform without payment. Damn. Or for reduced payment. Damn. At iHeart music festivals in exchange for more favorable airplay. Damn. The allegations specifically involve iHeart Country Music Festival to be held in Austin this coming May. Lamar's diss track, Not Like Us, was one of the biggest hits of 2024 and has amassed more than 1.2 billion streams on Spotify since its release in May of 2024. Lamar performed the track during the Super Bowl halftime show, a decision that was closely watched by music industry insiders given the litigation Drake has launched over the track. Besides the legal petition, Drake has also sued UMG for defamation. We know that. He also claims that they released the promotion of the recording. It's resulted in his threat to his physical safety and a bombardment of online harassment, and that Drake fears for the safety and security of himself, his family, and his friends. Lawsuit doesn't name Kendrick because, in view of Kendrick's lawyers, this is entirely about UMG, the company that decided to publish, promote, exploit, and monetize allegations that it understood were not only false but were dangerous. It's crazy. A spokesperson added, "We've invested massively into his music, and our employees around the world have worked tirelessly for many years to help him achieve historic commercial and personal financial success. Throughout his career, Drake has intentionally and successfully used UMG to distribute his music, and now he's suing us. He now seeks to weaponize the legal process to silence an artist's creative expression and to seek damages from UMG for distributing that artist's music. We have not and do not engage in defamation against any individual. At the same time, we will defend this litigation and protect our people and our reputation, as well as any artist who might directly or indirectly become a frivolous litigation target for have done nothing more than write a song." I mean, yeah, that's the news on that one, guys. said Meek wasn't crying like this. I mean, no. He wasn't. But that's where we're heading. I mean, one thing in 2025 is I've just noticed that people are really weaponizing the legal system. You know, we have another video on Relly that we're going to drop later on. For those that attended Power Hour last week, then you've already seen it. But we know that he's suing Tacopina separately, and he is also suing Rocky and other people involved in the Rocky camp for the same incident, the same one, the same scrapes. The same evidence in the bag is going to be used. Camille and them, they're moving forward with it. There was a hearing last week, and they're moving forward with the case. So that might be something that we can watch this year, because we're going to get Relly round 2. I think the trial has been scheduled for January of 2026. So it's in a few months. We'll see. Coming over to Cash Apps, shout out to Sharon, who hit me with a $10 Cash App. Thank you so much, Sharon. No comment, no question, pure love of the game. Thank you so much. Really, really excited about that one. And that just about does it for me for the Power Hour. We're just over an hour. A couple things coming, guys. We have a ton of content that we're working through. We're trying to do more shorter videos for you that are like 10 minutes long, where we could just give you the news quickly. We're really excited about that one. We're experimenting with it, and it seems to be going pretty well. If you have not heard, I got invited to talk at Vid Summit this year. It's a huge, event for creators. I'm really excited about it. Shout out to Lead Attorney. He had reposted my announcement on that. It was very sweet of him to do. So really excited about that one. And then other than that, we just working, man. Everybody's watching Karen Reed right now. I just have a feeling that the Karen case might be dismissed. It might not. But Turtle Boy's coming on Monday. He is a large creator here on YouTube that's been covering this case from the beginning all the way to where we are today. I have confirmed with him. We're just going to get the thumbnail together. So I'm going to do an interview with him next Monday. So we have that finally nailed down. But I'm going to get back to work. It was great hanging out with you guys, hanging out with my folks. You know, it was really fun. But we will see what happens with the Karen thing, and we'll go from there. All right, y'all. Stay safe out there. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.